We're going to learn about how to write a killer bio statement today. I'm Emily Hall, the VP of Marketing at Charette Venture Group. And for those of you who are new to Charette Venture Group, our mission is to help small architecture firms be better businesses. And we work with architecture firms all around the US and Canada. We partner with them to help provide resources and guidance as to how to grow their profitability and grow their firms. So we are here with Xylea Burrows, CVG's Director of Marketing. And Xylea works with our partner firms all across the country on helping with their marketing programs and messaging. Welcome, Xylea.
Thank you so much, Emily. I'm so excited to do this. And welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. So yeah, I'm not going to go into my long bio, but just briefly, I am the Director of Marketing at Charette Venture Group. And I've been working with architects for about 12 years. I've been helping with their business development, marketing, and messaging. So today we're going to talk about the bio, of course, but just briefly, I think that the bio is often overlooked. And I know it's not high on your list when you're talking about your marketing strategy and things you want to accomplish and your other content, but I'm going to talk about today why we think that it is pretty important to make sure it's up to date, it's compelling, it establishes credibility, and many other things that we'll go into. So my passion is to help leaders in the AEC industry create and clean up their content and their messaging. It's really a passion of mine because I know you're doing great work and we just want to tell the world about it. That's what sorry, someone just knocked on the door. So that's something that we do, is highlight the uniqueness of who you are and the great things that you're doing, and just help you share that with the world. So so today we'll talk about the bio, and first we'll talk about why it matters, and then we'll talk about the elements of a good bio, and then we'll look at some examples of what I consider good bios, and then we'll look at bad bios, which is the fun part, and then we'll look at a formula so you can start writing your own if you don't have one already. And then, like Emily said, we will be looking at a few people's bios if you have them ready, and if you want to be a guinea pig, and we'll be nice. So yeah, just jumping in. Oops. So why it matters. So really your bio is a part of your brand. So just like your brand matters, why you stand out in the marketplace, how you are different from your competitors. These are all things that are important, and the bio can really help you express that. So 3 points I like to make when talking about the importance of bios. One, it establishes your credibility. So really at a minimum, it talks about who you are, why you're in the role you're in, and why you are great for the position that you're going after. And when we talk about bios, I don't think we mentioned this, but we talk about the bios on your website, maybe your bio on LinkedIn, bios for a press release if you do those for your firm. So there are many applications, I think. If you apply for speaking engagements, you're gonna have to put a bio together. And so credibility includes, your education, your previous experience, any certifications or licenses that you hold. So it really just establishes, basic credibility. But number two is a little bit more advanced. I think the bios are good, a good opportunity to position yourself as a leader. Obviously, you want to be seen as a leader in your target market. So whatever you work in, if it's commercial office, if it's residential, if it's hospitality, you want to position yourself as a leader in that field, as an expert in that niche. So this is another chance to do that. And number three, I used to say, show your humanity. So we could say, show your humanity, show your personality. Basically, we're not robots, we're humans. And as you know, your clients want to work with people they like. So ultimately, you want to show a little bit about what makes you unique as a person, what makes you stand out. And I think that people really resonate with that. And I veer on the side of professionalism in bios. I think they should be about 90% about your professional qualifications, but there is room for a little bit of a personal tidbit if it's relevant for your firm and if it fits within your brand. So I will talk about that more in detail when we look at some examples. So, elements of a good bio. There are many elements, but I'm going to talk about 3 today. Number 1 is accuracy. I think that first and foremost, just being 100% truthful and accurate is important. I think that good marketing and branding should be about highlighting the uniqueness of who you are. Nothing should be exaggerated. But I do think that people should highlight, just the great things about what they've done in the past and the skills they have now. And Emily and I were just talking about this. A lot of people actually feel uncomfortable talking about themselves and highlighting their positive traits. And I think that's great that people are humble, but also your bio when you're trying to get projects is your one chance to really kind of brag about yourself. And you can do it in a way that's not, outrageous. But I think that the bio is a place where you really need to include your special skills, your certifications. If you've ever won an award or you've ever been written about in a newspaper, that's the place to really highlight those things and not be shy about, including your qualifications. The next one is relevancy. This one is really important because you want to think about your audience at all times when you're looking at your written content and your website content. I know that many of you work in many different markets, so we can talk about that later as well, if you should have more than one bio. That comes up a lot. So basically a lot of firms, if you do work in many different market types that are different from each other, let's say K to 12 and then also commercial office, you might want to have two different bios for those two different market types. What I recommend for some people is to have a master bio, which is really everything, it's everything under the sun. And we're talking maybe 3 paragraphs maximum. So it's an overall bio that you could use for any application. But then if you do work in different market types, it's good to have maybe 2 different bios at the ready for different opportunities. So you have your K-12 bio, and then you have your commercial office bio, which are kind of subsets of the master bio. So please always keep in mind relevancy when you are looking at your written content, making sure that it speaks to your target audience, to your target clients. And it's not written for you or your friends or your staff, that it's only information that your clients would be interested in. And then the last one here that I like to mention is intrigue. And that just means that it should be a little bit compelling. We're not trying to share your life story, which I'm sure that's very compelling, but we want people to be curious. We want people to want to know more about you. So again, we're not starting with your childhood, going through school and onwards. You want to put a little bit of intrigue, some compelling information that gets people interested in getting to know you. We want your clients to call you. We want people to think you're interesting and just want to talk to you on the phone. Again, I'm not saying this is going to make or break a huge deal, but it could set you apart from your competitors if you just have an interesting bio.
And I'm just going to add something right now about consistency that Siley and I were talking about before this call. If you're working in a firm with several partners or associates, make sure that all your bios are consistent, because something that we see with small firm architects is, due to a lack of resources, maybe lack of a marketing team, everybody writes their own bio and just, sends it along, and it gets posted on the website without much editing. And consistency between bios can really make you look a lot more sophisticated. It's a pretty amateur move to have, several tones of voices with your firm bios. Just kind of pick one tone of voice and make sure it's consistent throughout, so it doesn't look like everybody just submitted theirs automatically onto the website. It really, it's a nice touch to have that.
I totally agree, Emily. Thank you for saying that. When you're looking at a full team and everyone's bios on a website or in a proposal, when you're talking about resume bios, you do want them to be written in the same tense, and also just be about the same length. You could have someone with 30 years experience and 10 years experience, but they should be roughly the same length. So if you have 3 paragraphs for a principal and 2 paragraphs for the rest of the staff, that's fine. But they should flow the same. They should have a similar voice and not look like they're written by each staff member.
Yeah.
So,
and maybe eventually we can talk about how to bolster junior professionals' bio to might not have as much as experience as a principal, like what you would include and recommend including. So eventually eventually, but we'll talk about that today, I hope.
Yeah, let's remind me of that at the last slide when we go through a sample outline.
Okay.
That's a really great point. Okay, good. So now we're going to jump into, so before we look at the good and bad bio examples, I just want to show you a sample outline just so you know what we're even talking about. Probably most of you have a bio, but I'm just going to show you what I think should be the general structure for an AEC bio specifically. So your name and title, and these are not in 5 different lines, right? These elements here flow into 1 paragraph or 2 paragraphs, but these are just the elements in your bio that you want to collect. So your name and title, obviously, the specific role you play at your firm, and then you want to focus on the value that you bring to your clients and your audience. So we can talk about this later when we look at the examples of bios, but it's really important to, again, looking at the relevancy and speaking to the clients when you're writing this, you want to immediately tell them what you can offer them and why you're different from other people, why you're different from your competitors. So again, you want to focus on your special skills, why your passion for architecture, your passion for your niche, whatever it is. And again, we'll look at examples and that will be more clear. So extra, again, this is for people probably with more experience, but if you have specific client names you want to mention, if you have some big commercial client names that you've worked with 80% of the time, you might want to include them. Any awards that you've won, if relevant, media coverage received, if your firm was written up in the local paper or an architecture magazine, that's a place to include that too. And or community involvement. If you're really involved with your local Habitat for Humanity, or if you helped build buildings abroad at some point, basically just kind of any extra things that are not immediately relevant to what you do with your clients, but that still back up your credibility and your leadership. So the next thing to add, a lot of people start with their education and degrees, and I'm going to be mentioning this a lot when we look at the examples, but I think this should go towards the end, because if you're the founder or principal of a firm, of course you have a degree, right? And you probably are certified, but it's not the most important thing about you, and I think it should go towards the bottom of your bio. So your education and then relevant certifications. So if you're a licensed architect, if you're lead AP, or if you're certified passive house, or any certifications at all, feel free to include those towards the bottom.
Also, I'm going to add there just one thing. Look for consistency. I've seen a lot of bios where they say like a BA from so-and-so and a master's of architecture from somebody else. So if you're going to say, use a Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Science, be consistent throughout those educational references, and also check the AP standards as to how to outline master's degrees and the capitalization of those, because it's specific. Yeah, it's a Master of Architecture, not Masters, with apostrophe. So yeah, little things like that, I totally agree. The most important thing I think is just to proofread. So I don't really talk about that in this, but this is a good time to mention, spell check, proofread, and get someone else to look at it for sure. Even if you're an amazing writer, get someone else to look at it, because people see things that you don't. And then when relevant, I put call to action here because you'll see in one of the examples, if it makes sense, maybe if it's on your website, it could be your email address. Contact us today if you have questions about what we do. Or it could be follow us on Twitter and Instagram. You don't have to have it, but if someone is intrigued by your bio, which they should be, they might need a little bit, what do they do next? So having some way to contact you is a good way to deal with that. And of course, that's not in a written bio in a proposal, but on a website, that makes sense if you can easily link to something. So here's some examples of great bios, in my opinion. And just to clarify, these are made up. They're inspired by real bios that I've seen, but I changed the names and company names and any identifying information. So Sophia is the founder of Sophia Innovation, a branding firm that helps consultants and other thought leaders increase their fees by up to 2,000%. So that's a great intro. And I have this here because she immediately talks about the value that she can provide to her clients.
So I really love this example. Of course, it's extreme, right? Not all of us, are going to help increase people's fees by 2,000%. That would be great. But there's a hard number. You know what she does. This is an outcome from her work. So instead of her going on, a list of tasks that she does or responsibilities, it immediately goes into what her job outcome is, which is very impressive. And if people have questions about that too, definitely let's talk in the Q&A. But I just really want to make this point that you should talk about the value upfront. Her clients include CEOs of major organizations, a former head of the Harvard Business School, New York Times and Wall Street Journal bestselling authors, TED and TEDx speakers. So again, this is good because she has proper names. She's referencing other companies and organizations that are well known. So it just adds a bit of credibility to her bio by association. So if this is relevant, that's just something to keep in mind. And then at the bottom, she talks about previous experience. So before founding Sophia Innovation, Sophia served as Chief Marketing Officer at a global branding organization whose clients include JP Morgan, Nike, and Columbia Pictures. So she doesn't start with her previous experience, right? Because that's not as important as what she does now. But she does include it because it's relevant, and she uses proper names, and I guess they're impressive because they are well-known company names. And so it could add her a little bit of legitimacy if someone is reading her bio and they have no idea who she is. She holds an undergraduate degree in MBA from Northwestern University and currently serves on the board of the Museum of Contemporary Art. So again, her education is included, but it's at the bottom because it's not the most important thing about her anymore. And then it also mentions her community involvement. So this is not very personal. It doesn't say she lives with her 2 cats and loves kayaking, but it's relevant and it fits her brand, which is strictly professional and business oriented. So
I had a question about talking about your previous experience and using firms by name. I know that I've worked in several firms where when somebody comes on that came from a competitor firm or a larger firm to a smaller firm, there's always been a debate as to, do we include where that person worked in the past? Sometimes I think it could be an advantage. Other times it's just giving ink to a different firm and, carrying the reader's mind somewhere else. What's your opinion about that?
I'm glad you asked that because I would actually veer on not mentioning previous firm names. In this case, she's a business, we're looking at more of a consulting business bio, and those companies here are not competitors with each other, and it just helps her legitimacy. But in the case, of course, with our audience, with architects, I would veer on not using proper names of firms where you worked before. But there are some exceptions. So we know some people who founded firms after working for 10 years with very famous architects abroad, or maybe they live on the West Coast, but they started in New York and they worked for a high profile firm. It really depends. If it's very high profile and it's not a competitor with your current firm at all, you may want to consider including the name, and I think it'd be okay. But probably, I want to say 80% of the time, I probably wouldn't mention your names, but I would say before, becoming principal at XYZ, you served as project manager at a very high profile firm in New York working on complex commercial projects. There's a way to describe your previous experience without naming the company name. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Thanks for mentioning that. All right. So we're going to look at one more example of what I think is a good bio. Again, names have been changed, so these are kind of made up. But Liam is a co-founder and principal of L&M Studio. His close observation of the way people interact with space and objects constantly informs his work. So I love this intro because it's straight and to the point. And it also, instead of talking about value, like he increases his clients' outcome by 2,000%, he does talk about his special, particular passion, his niche. He talks about why he's interested in what he does and how it can help the client. As a firm leader, Liam is focused on creating innovative solutions that make people's lives better through the built environment. So again, that's a little bit of a value statement, which I think is great. His work has been recognized in numerous national and international design competitions and publications. So he doesn't name them, which is fine. You can also say something like this if it's true and relevant. It's a little bit cleaner than having a list of, word names or something like that. And it just, again, it establishes his credibility because he's obviously been recognized for his work. And so this is an example of kind of a fun bio because the second paragraph is a little bit more personal and also about his community involvement. So a lifelong cultural connoisseur, Liam has an eclectic interest in music, film. He was once in a movie with Jack Nicholson, and the culinary world. He even has a cocktail named after him. So this is just, kind of out there and fun, and it's personal, but it also it's intriguing, right? It goes with that element of intrigue. And for me, it would make me, if there's Liam's bio and there's someone else's bio, I would at least want to chat on the phone with Liam. And, he's obviously an interesting person, right? Maybe he won't get the job, but, he'll probably get a phone call. Additionally, he enjoys giving back to the community and is currently serving as the board president for the Center for Architecture and Design. So that's great. That's community involvement, and it's relevant to what he does. Because
do you also would encourage adding if somebody is a formerly on a board or a former board president? Yeah, okay.
I would. I've seen that a lot, and I think it works. A lot of people that we know have served on the board of AIA, for example, and it's a one-year term as president, right? And then a year as president-elect and past president. So there's a timeline for those things, and I think they're still impressive to include. And again, establishes a lot about you, that you're involved with your community, you like to give back, it's a volunteer role. So I definitely include that. And then he has a call to action because this is on his website. Follow him on Medium, Twitter, and Instagram. And those are links directly to other places where you can follow him.
I'm just going to add one thing that I just remembered about LEED, which I see a lot. And it's a pet peeve of mine when people say that they're LEED certified. People aren't LEED certified. People are LEED accredited professionals. Buildings are LEED certified. But I see that a lot, and I'm kind of surprised by it. So I just thought I'd add it before I forget, because that could be something that would be at the end that would it's kind of a record scratch moment when you see that.
Thank you, Emily. Totally agreed. So this is the fun part, I think. Not so great bios. Again, these have been heavily edited to not be recognizable. So I'm going to talk about, and they're not horrible, but we're just going to kind of talk about why they could be better. And then on the next slide, I'm going to show you how I would change it myself. So Jules is originally from the Southwest, where she began her career in architecture and construction as an apprentice near Phoenix, Arizona. She went on to attend the Rhode Island School of Design, where she earned a Bachelor of Architecture degree. So maybe by now you know what's wrong with this bio, but because, as you see later in the bio, she's a founder and owner of her firm, where she's from, where she grew up as a kid, where she even went to college, is not as important as what she's done in her professional career and what she can do for her clients. So I see this all the time. Emily, I'm sure you do too. We see this a lot. And where you're from is great. And if it's extremely relevant to why you got interested in architecture, or if being from the Southwest greatly informs the type of work that you do, include it, but put it towards the bottom of your bio. So just to look at the rest of her bio, alongside her studies, she continued work as a designer and builder before becoming licensed, blah, blah, blah. So again, this is chronological, but what we like to look at is more reverse chronological, where it starts with now, and then, if she wants to talk about being a licensed architect, that's great. I don't think she needs to put 1995. Nobody really cares. After graduation, she moved to Seattle. Great. Jules is the founder and owner of J Architecture and Design, founded in 1999 with a focus on sustainable residential design and construction, including passive house techniques. That's actually a good sentence for the beginning of a bio, because it starts off exactly with what she does, her current role, and what their focus is. So pretty straight to the point. The firm has won numerous awards over the years from AIA Seattle and AIA National for design and innovation, and has been the recipient of many grants as well. Jules currently serves on the Seattle Planning Committee. Great. So again, not a terrible bio. It's pretty good, but I would just move some things around. So I'm going to show you what I would do if I were in charge. So I would move that sentence up. So Jules is founder and owner of this firm. This is what they focus on. And then this is something she forgot completely. This is made up, but a recently completed project, XYZ Tower, is now the tallest passive house certified building in the United States. So that's pretty important to include. If you have an accolade like that, you want to make sure it's in your bio. And people forget because maybe you have a bio and it's 5 or 10 years old and you just forget to update it with this kind of thing. So this is a chance to kind of look at your bios anew. The firm has won numerous awards. Again, that's establishing credibility, recognition. And then the second paragraph, one of the most experienced passive house consultants in the country. Jules is a sought after speaker, frequently participates in talks and panel discussions nationwide. We didn't know that about her before in her previous bio. She had not added that until now. So again, anything you do outside of work that's relevant to your position, you want to include. And then we have, originally from the Southwest, Jules began her career in architecture and construction near Phoenix before earning a Bachelor of Architecture degree. She lives in Seattle and currently serves on the Seattle Planning Committee. So again, we're going in order of importance. And where she lives, of course, is important, but you probably already know that about her before you even look at the bio. Okay? All right, here's another one. So this guy's a big deal. This guy is the CEO of a major corporation, but you wouldn't know it until the end of the bio. So Bob, I like picking on Bob. So Bob obtained his BS in mechanical engineering in 1995 and joined XYZ Engineering in 2000 after working as a mechanical engineer and project lead at a few other organizations, including NASA. Since joining, first of all, that's too long. I'm out of breath. Second of all, you don't lead with something from 1995. You just don't. You start with current information and then, you go in reverse chronological. So since joining XYZ, Bob has worked on and led a diverse array of mechanical design projects with a focus on the firm's aerospace projects. Next paragraph, in 2005, Bob took on the business operations of the company and guided the company's growth from a small 3-person engineering company to one with over 80 employees in a 60,000 square foot facility. That's pretty impressive, but it takes you that long to get to the meat of who Bob is and what he does. In 2015, Bob continued the company's success with its integration into ABC Corporation and remains there as CEO. So that should probably be towards the front of the bio, the beginning of the bio. So we're going to see next how I would change Bob's bio if I was able to. So Bob is the CEO at ABC Corporation, a mechanical engineering firm that specializes in aerospace projects. So again, just starting with the basics. This is his role. This is what he does now. This is what they can help you with. After he became a leader of the firm, he guided the company's growth from a small 3-person firm to one with over 80 employees. So here he's talking about his value. He's not sharing with you every detail of how he did that, but he's sharing with you the outcome. He's obviously skilled. He knows what he's doing because he was able to greatly expand this company. And then you talk a little bit about his past experience, if it's relevant. So 2015, continue the company's success. He is a BS in mechanical engineering. I would hope so. And he used to work for NASA. That's impressive. That's a proper name that people know. So, in that case, it's relevant to include, right? It's not a competitor, but it's impressive. He believes that engineering can change lives, and he enjoys spending his free time volunteer teaching with Habitat for Humanity and the Boys and Girls Clubs of America. So before it was a little bit dry. I mean, it's still kind of dry, but it doesn't have anything personal about him at all. It's just very, it's very basic. So here we add a little bit of his humanity, a little bit of his personality, like we talked about in the beginning. Great. So here is the simple formula that you can try. And this is, either if you want to write your bio, a fresh bio for yourself, or if you don't have one and you're just kind of crafting one for the first time, I'll just walk you through this. So your name is a blank that specializes in commercial office design or specializes in K-12 sustainable renovations, the specific role you play, focusing on the value you bring to your clients and audience. Then the next sentence could be specific client names. You work heavily with NASA, for example, or you design all of Google's offices, if that's relevant. Or mention any awards you've won. One of our firms won a 40 under 40 award from the local business journal. So just include any awards that you think are important. Media coverage, one of the projects you won was the first LEED certified building in your state, and it was written about in XYZ newspaper. And you can include your community involvement here. In your spare time, you love giving back to your community, you serve on XYZ board. And then of course I think most people want to include their education and relevant certifications, but again, that would be towards the end. And then the very last thing I would include, if it fits your brand, is the personal or family tidbit, if it's appropriate for your firm's brand. So one of our firms, they're based in a pretty small town, and it seems like a really tight-knit staff, and also their town is pretty, it's a small, medium-sized town, and they have had it, the architecture firm we work with has had a huge impact on the town. So they're pretty well known, and they want to come off as really approachable and friendly. And so they added quite a bit of personal and family information on theirs, and that's their choice and it fits their brand. So, they talk about, their spouse, their family, they like to go to the lake on the weekends, they're fixing up their own 1905 house, things like that, if it fits your brand again. So if you have a firm that is just 100% professional, that's your choice, and you don't need to include anything beyond the first 3 points.
Great.
Yeah.
I've got a question from Julie. After the outline, name, role, value add, extras, education, call to action, would you add quotes from clients, photos, and graphics of relevant work, a list of speaker engagements, publications, and so on? Do you want me to go ahead and answer that?
Oh, I can do it. That's more of a CV. That's more, all those items belong on a resume or a CV. When we talk about the professional bio, we're talking about a 1, 2, 3 paragraph maximum short bio statement that's in written form, like we saw in the 4 examples. So all of those other items, list of your projects, speaking engagements, those definitely belong on your resume.
Yep. Not necessarily testimonials, quotes from clients. Those don't necessarily go on your resume.
Right.
You can, if you want to design those in, but typically that would not be included. Yeah.
I was thinking about the other things, the top projects, list of speaking engagements, education, certifications, and then of course your testimonials from your clients. That's great for the website. That's great to be peppered in, even in a proposal, if it makes sense to do a little sidebar, or on a cut sheet. If you have a project cut sheet, it makes sense to have a testimonial about that project on that cut sheet.
Yep. Do you want to talk now about what to do if you don't have that much experience, you haven't been on boards, you don't have much volunteer work yet, or maybe you're just not interested in that? How do you populate this to make it not pithy?
Yeah, we do this a lot. We have 19 firms that we work with at Charlotte Venture Group, and I helped with a lot of bios, and there are a lot of new staff members who are maybe just a year or 2 out of school. So I've helped write a lot of those bios, and sometimes they end up being the most interesting ones, because we get to talk more about their character and their interests and their passion and maybe why they got into architecture. So while I wouldn't recommend that for someone with 30 years experience who has already a lot of content that they probably need to cut down, for someone who's new to the industry. So again, you want to start with their name. Maria is a junior designer that helps our team with drafting, or she helps with, whatever it is that she does. She's an expert 3D modeler. She's really helped improve our graphics, just something like that, what she does now. And then you can go into education for a newer staff member and just say they recently graduated with a master's from XYZ University. They studied abroad. I actually just did one, I think yesterday, she had studied abroad in Italy, Uganda, and somewhere else cool. And she learned about some really interesting things. And I just included that right in the bio.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she studied abroad and she studied these, you know, XYZ.
Mm-hmm. You
Someone
can also add what they did their thesis on. I found that's
exactly
also very interesting. Where someone just graduated from the master's from blah blah blah, where she wrote her thesis on, you know, sustainable building and using, you know, laminated timber and or something like that. You know, that's a little bit that adds some intrigue.
Definitely. Yeah, if they have a relevant thesis topic or study abroad, thesis. One of the bios I worked on, actually, it says that, you know, she got it, her grandpa was a master furniture maker, and she got into architecture because she loved, you know, 3D, you know, working with actual, you know, 3D objects growing up. And that's what inspired her to get into space planning. So, you know, again, that's a little bit of a personal family thing, but I think if there's room and it makes sense with your brand and it fits the other bios generally, then I think that's definitely a way to make those a little bit longer. Any other questions, or should we look at someone's bio?
Let's look at someone's bio. Does anybody want to volunteer? Grab their bio in the chat, and you can open it up for a conversation. Please, somebody do that, because otherwise I'm gonna not getting any. Oh, here we go. Here's a question. For someone that has 19 years in the industry, but is setting up a new firm, what tips would you have to skirt the new vibe and focus on their value? Good question.
To skirt the new vibe? Okay.
Skirt the new vibe and focus on their value. Meaning, if you have experience, and feel free to clarify, whoever this is, feel free to clarify. Setting up a new firm, you know, it's a challenge, right? Because you're talking about all the experience you've had in the past, you know, the value that they bring, but my guess is that this person is, you know, thinking they have to be a little bit on the generic side and create a new kind of culture with for their new firm through this bio and through this communication. Please correct me if I'm wrong. For whomever asked this question, but does that make sense? Yeah,
I'm just going to jump in and just pretend I know the person. So what I would say is, let me think of a name. Emily, I'll use your name. Emily started XYZ firm because she was passionate about, you know, XYZ niche. So that's a way to start it, even though it's a new firm and it's fresh. It's still exciting because you started your firm for a reason, right? You went on your own for a reason. And we don't want to go into the gory details about why you may have left your old firm, but there's obviously some kind of passion or some kind of niche that you have. Otherwise, you wouldn't be going off on your own. So I would just play that up in the first sentence. So you are founder, kind of like Liam's, you know, let's just go back actually. So you are a co-founder and principal of your new firm. And then you can talk about something like this, you know, your close observation of the way people interact, obviously not copying off of an existing bio, but just talking about why you're doing what you do and why you started your firm. What was the gap in the market? You know, what solution are you trying to solve or, you know, offer? What problem are you trying to solve that other people are not? So that's a great chance to just explain what your new firm is doing. And then as a firm leader, which you are, even if it's new, you're still a firm leader, you're focused on XYZ. And then your second paragraph can say, you know, you have 20 years of experience. You've worked with high profile firms in your town or in another town. You have experience in commercial, residential, hotels, embassies, you know, whatever it is, you know, you can list your project types if it's relevant. And then you can say, you know, if you want to add a personal thing or any community involvement. I think that's a pretty easy workaround. So do let us know if you have any follow-up questions.
Yeah, he said thank you. That's
great. Good. Okay, good.
Yeah, well, does anybody want to offer up their bio? Or just want to see me suffer through this? Okay, that's fine. Let's see. So,
Is there another
yeah.
question? I see 2 questions.
Oh, here's mine. Yay. Vincent, thank you. Vincent Minkler. I am going to share my screen. So
Okay.
is that okay? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks. Vincent, can everybody see
Hi,
this?
Vincent. Yes, great.
Awesome. I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna find him and unmute him so we can talk a little bit. But go ahead and start.
Great. First of all, thank you for volunteering. I hope you inspire other people too. So this is great. So you're the owner of your firm, it looks like.
Oops. Sorry. Go back.
You're the owner of your firm, obviously. And again, you do what I see a lot. So I'm not going to pick on you too much, but you do say that you graduated from New Jersey Institute of Technology, a licensed architect with over 20 years experience. That's not even a full sentence, actually. Sorry, not to be not to be picky, but you do want full sentences on your bio. So Vin works with a desire to leave every place he finds better than he found it. That's good because you talk about what, your passion, why you do what you do. But I would definitely start it kind of like the examples we looked at. I would start it something like, Vin is owner architect of Minkler Architecture and Design. He started his firm because he has a passion for, some value statement of yours. So leaving every place he finds better than it was before. Just something about why you do what you do, why you started your own firm, what you specialize in. You can say, what do you specialize in, Vin?
His mic isn't.
Oh, okay.
Isn't available, and
So let's just make up.
Residential work.
You specialize in residential work, so you're an expert in your area on both new construction and renovations. And then I would say, you have 20 years experience, you're a licensed architect, and then put your education, probably the last sentence, kind of like what we saw in the bios. And then if you want to add, it looks like you're a small firm. So I would probably encourage you to have maybe a sentence that's a little bit more personal. You're a lifelong resident of blank, New Jersey, or, you love running and, volunteering for, your local soccer team, whatever it is. Just because you're a small firm and you want people to think that you're approachable and a friendly guy. So that's what I would do for his.
Yeah, I would also add that, and Vin said he's a sole practitioner and he works in residential work. I think that it really does call for you to be a little bit more personal in your bio because people are inviting you into their homes. They want to know that they're going to trust you and get along with you for the, what kind of person you are before they call. So I think that's a really good window into the work experience of working with you. Great. Did you have any other questions, Vin, before we move on? I'm just kind of reading and we're going to do this by typing. Great. That's good. So we got another one. Julie says, that was super helpful. I'm in the same boat. And that's a great point to begin with why I started the firm. Julie, I'll just go ahead and do yours. Awesome.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Great. Constructed ground landscape architecture is founded by Julie Cantor, an award-winning landscape architect with over 12 years of experience in the field. This is really good. I would just say in the first sentence, actually, for all of the bios, I would not have it in passive tense. I would have it in active tense. So that would be Julie Cantor founded constructed ground landscape architecture. Or you could say an award-winning landscape architect, comma, Julie Cantor founded, make it passive, make it active tense. She brings a rigorous approach to design and insatiable curiosity and a collaborative nature to each of the projects and client groups. That's great. I think that's perfect. As a former partner of PWP Landscape, led many large-scale, complex, integrated projects in the United States and Singapore. That's great, because you have specific projects that are very high profile. You know, again, I wouldn't use proper names and proper project names for everyone, but these are very well known, you know, they're world famous. So I think that's, and you are a partner at the firm, you know, it's not like you were just a staff member. So it makes more sense to include proper names when you were in a leadership role. Julie received her Master of Landscape Architecture degree. I would put the word degree in there, or I don't know if that's necessary. From UPenn, Computer Science from Cornell. Where she also, yeah, I think that's good. So just the ones I said. And then there's a couple punctuation things. So again, I would just have someone proofread this who is a nerd about punctuation like myself.
So Leah's a total nerd about punctuation and proofreading. I have to tell the group that. She's going to be the most critical person you've ever had review your bio. So, but it's
good though, right?
It's really good. It's really, really good because it can really make you look a lot more professional. Just clean that up. That's fantastic. Julie, are you good with that? We can move on to a few other ones. I don't have the ability right now to go through all the attendees and turn on your mics. So if there's anything, burning questions, just feel free to type it in. Let's go to Demetrius. Oops, on the message. Thanks. Great. So Julie's good. Here we are with Demetrius.
Great. Emily, do you mind making the screen a little bit bigger?
Of course.
Hi, Demetrius. It's fun to see all the people who are attending.
I know, it's great.
Hi, Demetrius. Let me read your bio. Demetrius, founder of, how do you say that? Lines? Is a licensed architect with over 12 years of experience in design and construction. He has practiced both domestically and internationally in various building types. I would maybe say he's experienced, or he has expertise in various building types, both domestically and internationally. So not a big change. I just think it would flow better. Specialty retail, creative office interiors, restaurants, medical, and boutique hospitality with a focus in residential design and construction. That's good. Demetrius has searched to find his ideal studio environment, a forward-thinking business structure. I think that's good. Just one note. This came up before when I gave this workshop. I looked at someone's bio and they had 6 paragraphs, which was too long, but every single paragraph started with their name. And that's just something I would point out for any content. If you have a 3-paragraph statement of any kind, I would make sure each paragraph starts with a different word. So I would say in his search to find his ideal studio environment, Demetrius was motivated to create his own path in architecture and found his own firm. So I hope that makes sense. Can you scroll down?
Sorry.
That's fine. With his special attention to project goals, budget, and schedule, his special attention inspires. So again, just make sure to proofread. A collaborative approach to design and construction to execute efficient and cost-effective work. That's great because you're talking about the value, you're talking about a very specific thing that you do. Beyond architecture licensure, you are an accredited professional and well, and then you explain what well is, which is good because not everyone knows that.
Yeah.
So I think this is really good. Just a couple little tweaks that I said before would be good.
I like the photo too. I think that, you know, the photo that you choose to accompany your bio says so much. It's really, you know, you can really establish yourself as, you know, whatever mood you're trying to create. Okay, Demetrius says, thanks. We've got 2 more. Are you good?
I love this. I could do this for a whole hour.
Cool. We've got, this is Vincent Pieri.
Hi, Vincent. We have another Vincent.
Yeah, nice picture. Okay.
Okay, great. So my first question is, it says personal commitment and a quote, and I have no idea who's saying the quote. I'm assuming it's you, right? But I would maybe make that clear. Or
you don't think it's clear with I think that?
I think maybe you don't need the quote marks.
Okay.
Yeah, something about the quote marks and not who's saying it, you know. I would, maybe at the bottom, I would just have a dash with your name, or I would just take the quote marks out. So it's just a personal statement from you. Okay. So going down to background, do you mind scrolling down a little bit again?
Okay.
Thanks. So this is another good example. Thank you for being a guinea pig. So hopefully you know by now after the webinar that, you know, starting that you've lived in Puerto Rico since 1988, I would say that's probably not the most important thing about what you can do for your clients. It's important to you and it's relevant to you, but I would put that at the bottom of your bio because that doesn't serve clients necessarily. So in 2003, you founded your firm. You're a leader in green building design excellence with a proven track record. Again, it's with a proven track record. So again, just proofread it, have a professional writer look at it and just make sure there are no grammatical or punctuation errors. Proven track record of delivering successful high performance building projects within conventional budgets and tight schedules. That's good. I would say I've seen, you know, within budget and schedule, I've seen that a lot. So I think you could probably spice it up a little bit with something, you know, something more personal about you and your passion for what you do, your background in green building, project approach, your background in architecture, project management, and ecological strategies as part of talent for how to listen to clients. That's good.
Yeah, it's almost like that could be a lead-in sentence.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say Vincent Pieri founded Pieri and Associates in 2003 to focus on green building and design excellence. You know, something about why. Why did you start your own firm? And what do you specialize in? And then you can say, he is a leader in this field because of XYZ. And I would encourage you, instead of just saying you have a proven track record, I would back it up with something if possible. You know, you have the most lead projects in San Juan, you know, just something specific. You know, what makes you a leader in green building? A lot of people say that, you know, so let's back it up a little bit. And then the project approach, yeah, you can just combine that all into one bio statement.
Because if you do get asked to speak somewhere, you're going to have to combine this into a paragraph, you know, as opposed to 3 subheadings.
So any questions, Vincent? Does that make sense?
Let's see, I might be typing, but it's me. Oh, thanks. Okay, good. I think that was helpful. Let's do Roberts. Can you see my screen if I make this large? I don't know if I can make this any larger, but can you read this?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I just see Vincent still.
Oh, you did? Okay, so you're not seeing the Q&A. I will read it. Robert Klobb is president of Robert Klobb Designs, Inc., an award-winning full-service residential design studio located in Chandler, Arizona. His 30-plus years experience has allowed him to design projects in 24 states and 13 countries. Robert is a leader in the insulated concrete form, ICF, industry, and has designed or consulted on nearly 400 ICF structures. He is currently a planning and zoning commissioner for the city of Chandler, Arizona. Robert was on the development committee for the above ground concrete wall code, has regular articles in regional and national publications, and speaks at conferences and events. In addition, he is an active board member for several trade organizations and committees. If you are interested in more information regarding your residential ICF project, please follow us on social media at rkdzns.com.
That sounds perfect, Robert. Why are you in this class? Yeah, I'd love to use your bio for a future good bio example. I don't really have any, changes to that.
I have a few just looking tiny grammatical things. 30 plus years, probably you could do 30 plus years of experience instead of years, apostrophe experience. He's a leader in ICF, the city of Chandler, Arizona. Okay, that's fine. I saw something else in here. Anyway, I can't, I can nitpick if I can read it right now, but there were a couple of things I thought that were minor that you might want to proofread, or even just send it to Xylea, or I'll send it to Xylea with your email address, and she can pick through it, as she is so good at doing. Let's see. Okay, a couple of additional questions. Robert says, thanks, feel free to use it. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Would you recommend using a copywriter to help edit and review content?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
If it's in your budget, I would definitely plan that out.
I would also say if you're going to find a good copywriter and pay for it, you might want to have all of your writing reviewed, meaning your firm profile, a few bios, some of the, just have several things to do at once. Otherwise, you're probably paying a little bit more than you need to. I shouldn't say paying more than you need to, but you might be able to get more for your money.
A bulk rate. If you have someone look at all of your content, you might get a better deal than just a couple of bios. Yeah.
Okay. I'm not seeing any more. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Any other questions, or anybody else would like to share their bio? Please do. That was great. It was really helpful to go through those bios. I hope that the attendees found that useful. And certainly, is there a replay? Yes, we have recorded this. So I will send a link to the recording to everybody who attended, and even those who didn't, for sure. And Xylea, let's share your email address, contact information one more time for people to copy. Want to share your screen?
Yep.
All right. Terrific.
If I can, hold on one second.
These webinars are always
technology.
A lot of moving parts.
Here we go. So, here is my CVG contact info, Xylea@charettevg.com. All of our bios are on our website too. You can find us on our website, which is just charettevg.com, which you can see on the slide, and then run social media as charettevg.
Yeah, excellent. And if you go to the top of your webinar chat, you will find the link, and you can schedule a meeting with us directly on my calendar, and we're happy to talk to you about your firms and any ways that we can help or just answer questions. That would be fabulous. We'd love to talk to you. And that's it. Feel free to email us if you have any questions, and thanks for joining.
Thank you so much, everyone.